Hey everyone, this is Hikiko, and I want to bring to you one of the most fascinating gamers on YouTube that makes other retro video game collectors angry by the very sight of his wonderful and objectively large collection. I'm talking, of course, about Joel Hopkins, the last gamer.
Once upon a time, there was an 8-year-old boy who loved video games so much he wanted to play them all. Then, at the age of 12, he told his mother he wanted to collect them all. That was 32 years ago. Hi, my name is Joel, and welcome to my games room.
This is Joel Hopkins, known as The Last Gamer here on YouTube. I think many of us were first introduced to him back in 2017 when he gave a room tour showing off his massive video game collection. At the time, this collection was comprised of over 20,000 video games, arcade systems, and consoles, which earned him the world's largest video game collection from the years 2015 to around 2019. It's been estimated that his collection has now grown to over 40,000 video games.
Full library of Japanese Mega Drive games. Master System, Mark III, SG-1000, Game Gear, Dreamcast, and my full set of Saturn games. Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and my beloved NES full set. An exhausting 20 years to get a full set of PS1 Japanese games, and I've just started on PS1 US games. Xbox original Japanese, full set of Xbox games, and Xbox 360, one of my favorite all-time consoles.
Joel's collection is probably the first thing people notice about the guy. I myself thought this guy was some sort of rich millionaire lunatic who had completely lost his mind by trying to preserve his childhood so he could live in this nostalgic utopia.
So this is it, my lifelong dream to have my own childhood arcade flashback, and I absolutely love it. It turned out much better than I first thought. All up, there's about 97 machines in this room.
I had it in my head for a long time that this was an asshole who would never appreciate these games and didn't deserve them.
And yes, I love Knack. That Knack poster too was given to me by Sony Japan.
The images of Joel on Google don't do a lot to dispel that image in my mind with the crossed arms and condescending glare towards the camera. Like he's looking at you and saying, "Go ahead, mate, whip it out. I bet it's not as big as mine." And that's the problem with judging things for face value. It doesn't paint the entire portrait of who this person is. So thankfully, there was a 70-part autobiography on Joel's life on the Last Gamer channel that I watched to help me alleviate some of these prejudices I had. He's not just some rich dude with a Capcom car, even though he has that and a Daytona car. He's actually a pretty cool dude. Let's get into him. Joel has pretty much nuked a lot of the content on his channel because he wanted to rebrand it into like a chronological story of his entire life. And he does that through a series called Story Mode, which I think he took some inspiration from Happy Console Gamer, just telling little anecdotes about his life and growing up with gaming and all the weird adventures he went on. And I think this is his best format. He seems very passionate about his favorite subject, himself. And that's fine. There's some really good gems in there if you watch through it.
A lot of people were saying that Pete Dorr and Gamester81 and Happy Console Gamer were saying that I'm a fake and my collection's not that big and a company owns it. All these different rumors. It's just typical trolls trying to stir up trouble in the community.
Joel had been a lifelong fan of video games. He had once told his mother that he was going to collect all the video games. He was exposed to video games through the old arcade scene back in the day, and he got addicted to games like Space Harrier. There was a local TV show, kind of a public access thing in his hometown that he used to watch. And on that show, they would have video game competitions. Try and get the high score in a certain amount of time and win the big prize. Well, Joel wrote in and said, "I like video games, I got a big collection, please put me on the show." And they picked him. And he went on that broadcast where he has like this old VHS taping of it, but he had accidentally taped over some of his gameplay of The Last Ninja. Take a look.
So this is the original VHS tape of me on the Early Bird show, and I recorded Last Ninja over this tape. Luckily, I saw the counter and I stopped it before I play.
There we go, 600,000. And the dragon just started to appear too. Well done, Joel, congratulations.
And like that, Joel just won.
And apparently all the Space Harrier competitions that were ran on that show, there was 58 of them, I was number 1. And I had my name put on a plaque in Time Zone as the greatest Space Harrier champion.
Joel's love and fascination of video games grew after he had an Amiga computer, where he quickly learned that you could just copy games and then give them away to friends, and then he and his friends would copy and trade games all the time. Well, that got out of hand quickly.
The Commodore Amiga 500. Now, back in the day, I was a huge cracker and hacker on the Amiga 500.
You see, Joel wanted to make this into a business, and he joined a cracking group where he went by the name Silver, and he started selling pirated games out of his local newspaper. The police did show up and shut down his little operation.
I was involved in many cracking groups such as ACU, the Firestarters, to name a few. Later on I went a bit rogue and went under the name Silver.
Joel made a lot of friends through his days of cracking Amiga games, one of which happened to be founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, who taught him some programming and also copied and shared games with him.
Now, Julian actually lived 3 streets away from my grandmother's house, but he was just a humble teenager that used to swap and copy games with me and teach me how to program. I learned a lot from that guy, actually.
Around the time Joel turned 18, he thought it wasn't enough to just like video games. He wanted to run his own video game store. So Joel reached out to his grandfather for a business loan, of which Joel had every intention to pay back. It wasn't like he was just handed free money. He was going to earn it back on his own. So he ended up owning his own video game store called Australian Vision Games. And he ran it out of a dingy little shop, and he made some contacts within the gaming industry to where he could start importing games directly from China and Japan. And one of the things that got him into trouble was he was importing a lot of games that weren't officially released in Australia yet. So he would get games like months in advance of their Australian release, and then he would modify consoles like the Super Nintendo or provide the Honeybee converter so you could play those Super Famicom games on the Super Nintendo. And things were getting out of control.
He then pulls out a business card, hands it to me. He's from Nintendo. He said, I'm saying it's illegal, I'm from Nintendo, and if you don't stop selling your games, we're going to take you to court and sue you for damages.
Joel would go on to have many negative experiences in his little side hustles of importing and modding systems. First of which is when he had his video game store, a representative from Nintendo came in and noticed that he was selling import games and adapters. So they bought one and then came back a week later with a business card saying, you better stop this or we're gonna sue you into oblivion.
People would come in and ask for Japanese games. I'd say, hang on a minute, I'd have to go at the back and see if I got it, and kind of put it in a brown paper bag. No kidding, that's how it was.
There are many somber and serious stories that Joel's told on his channel over the years.
I had no car, no business. When I put on a Saturn game, I didn't even want to play it anymore. I wanted to pull it out of the TV and throw it in the bin.
He talked about the first time he sold off his game collection because he thought that he wasn't going to find true love until he got rid of the games because the women in his life at the time thought they were immature. Like, he had 3 main hobbies: cars, which was fine, Star Wars, normal enough, but it was the video games he was finding where people were just like, you're kind of immature. So Joel, in an act of depression, sold off all of his video games.
And even though I was on Valium to take the edge off, I was in deep depression. I couldn't find the answers, so I went to the pub and that was it. I drowned myself and my pain in alcohol.
And then he sought help in one of the most unlikely of places, through the self-help guru of Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, these tapes transformed my life forever.
You might know Tony Robbins if you've seen the movie Shallow Hal.
Devils, come out! What the hell are you doing, banana hands?
Joel has come on the record to say that he spent over 600 hours taking body language courses where he can begin to read people, kind of like a pickup artist.
Imagine being able to read someone without even talking to them. That's what I was interested in. I spent over 600 hours on body language courses all up. The guy teaching it said I was the keenest student he ever had in his 30 years of teaching.
If I were a game collector, I'd be a little intimidated when Joel comes around. He's had over 600 confirmed hours of body language courses. He's already read your next 3 moves. Your video game collection is as good as Joel's.
And with the confidence I had thanks to Tony Robbins, I muster up the courage and ask her out for a coffee.
I liked hearing stories about how he and his wife, when they started dating, he went into his friend's DVD shop and noticed that his friend had a Dreamcast weeks before it was set to release in Australia. And he was talking with his friend. He's like, yeah, no, I'll let it go for around $1,200. And Joel's like, I don't have the money for it. And then his girlfriend, now wife, went over there and bought it for him.
We've only been going out 2 weeks. I'm in debt to you, $1,100 already. This is not going to happen. I've got the money. She said, too late. It's a gift from me. It's your birthday present and you can have it tonight. And that's final.
And they spent the entire night playing Sega Dreamcast together. Stuff like that just melts my heart.
Mandy is my soulmate, my partner, and someone who understands me completely. Mandy, I will forever love you.
Were there just some other wholesome moments in there, like where Joel gives an anti-suicide PSA at the end of one of his videos?
Life is valuable and precious, and no matter how hard things seem at the time, there's always an answer and you're not alone.
Joel started his YouTube channel back in 2010 after being inspired by his favorite channel, Johnny Millennium, aka The Happy Console Gamer. Joel was such a huge fan of Johnny Millennium that he paid tribute to him in his review of Ghouls and Goblins.
In this episode, we're going to be looking at Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts series. First of all, I just want to say a special thank you to Johnny Millennium, Happy Console Gamer. And this is why, Johnny. When I was looking for Ghosts and Goblins reviews myself on YouTube, I come across you, and I haven't looked back, and you've inspired me to do my own reviews.
Throughout the years, Joel tried to reach out to Johnny in hopes of either collaborating or gathering some advice from Johnny, but unfortunately, Johnny just never got back to him.
I got on YouTube and I explained that I had a big collection and maybe we should do something. But unfortunately, no go. And a few times I contacted him, but no go.
Fret not, they'll eventually cross paths later on in this video. Joel's early work was a little rough to say the least, but he has improved over the years. He's a lot more high energy, composed, and Australian than ever before. And I love it.
This is a Sega section, and yes, I do say Sega like that. That's just how Australians say Sega.
Now, Joel loves cars, and most people notice the Daytona car or his Capcom car, all of which are very interesting stories. But the one that stuck out to me the most was this one car that Joel purchased that Polyphony Digital, the guys who made Gran Turismo, helped design. And he buys this car, and then he discovers inside the trunk, he finds a PlayStation 3 and a copy of Gran Turismo.
There was a trick. You could put a USB inside the GDR and it would write data to the stick to play in Gran Turismo 5.
You wouldn't download a car, would you? Joel would, and that's what he did.
The USB stick in the slot. Turn the car on. To accessories. I uploaded my actual car to the game.
A lot of people wonder, where did he get all of this collection? Was he just rich and he just bought it all at once? No, he amassed it over his lifetime, and he had a lot of different careers related to video games. He owned his own video game store, he worked for an arcade repair shop, he made a lot of friends that worked at Capcom and Nintendo and all other sorts of distributors around the world. And he also knows the art of the deal. The guy would haggle with people like, hey, you got that broken arcade over there? I know how to fix that. I'll just buy it off from you cheap. I'll get it off your hands. I'll fix it up.
But unfortunately, some people would jump to conclusions thinking I'm so loaded that I've just went and bought thousands of cartridges and thousands of motherboards and that I just reached in my back pocket and paid for it. Well, as nice as that would have been, that was just not the case. You see, I had 5 other people go in with me to buy this bulk deal. That way we would get them so cheap and we would have split it up 6 ways.
Joel has a general apprehension towards anyone coming into his home. He doesn't really trust too many outsiders, mainly because he's been burned in the past. He had some game journalists over who were interviewing him for a story piece about his life and his collection. Well, after the interview concluded, Joel was taking inventory of his collection and noticed he was missing some very valuable high-priced games.
And it's got to the point where I've had to now ban people from coming. Like, I get questions all the time. Hey, it's such and such from IGN. We'd love to come and do an interview with you. Sorry. Policy now. No one's allowed to hear anymore.
Joel is really attached to his video game collection. About a couple of years ago, he had a substantial offer from a collector in the Netherlands, and they were going to offer him so much money that Joel decided he could just instantly retire, and maybe his kids would be well off too. But for whatever reason, Joel said, no thanks. Or so the story goes.
Obviously, I decided not to sell my collection. Look, I'm just not going to be bought.
I began to notice that Joel wasn't exactly accepted within this tiny little niche of the retro gaming community on YouTube, if you want to call it that. You never would see him appearing in interviews with other YouTubers or collaborating on videos or just in general talking with other content creators in the retro gaming community. And I always wondered why that was. Well, come to find out, Joel had some big words for other YouTubers that may have rocked the boat.
I had so many celebrities contact me wanting to bring over their own camera crew and take videos of the room with me and them, like they're doing me a favor and giving me exposure. I'd prefer to pick my own celebrities.
I think it all traces back to 2017, when on the Last Gamer Facebook page, Joel posted a very strange email he received about a potential collaboration with another large YouTuber. Something like a mutual agreement between Joel and this mysterious YouTuber that would help Joel catapult himself out of obscurity. This is that email.
Hi Joel, I see you're becoming quite popular in the last week or so. That's really good, my man. I am so crazy busy at the moment with my channel and with work, but I would love to give your channel the boost it needs. Due to being so busy, I could take time off and set aside a video just plugging you, and with my blank amount of subscribers, I'm sure a lot would head your way. Setting the video up takes time, and unfortunately, time is money. It would take between 1 to 2 weeks to edit, and I would need you to video your side of the room and send me the footage. I was thinking around the 3K mark, maybe a little less. My motivation is not money driven, more to help you out, dude. Sincerely yours, Redacted. I can't stop laughing. I'm not going to release the name of this individual, but I'm losing a lot of respect for some YouTubers. Oh, and I did reply, no thanks, I'll do it my way.
Joel never posted the header for this email. You don't know who the sender is. He redacted some information, and it just kind of seems like he was implying that it was Metal Jesus. And he didn't outright say it until a couple of years later when somebody dug up this old Facebook post and made some drama videos on the subject where they said, this, of course, is Metal Jesus that Joel's implicating here in this email.
Wow, Yep, I do hate being in the middle of this crap, but I didn't want to create any drama, especially back then when I was trying to grow the channel. I thought it would be best to leave Jason's name out. Not only that, but I watched him quite a lot and John Hancock. For some reason, they gave me little respect, not that I require it. End of the day, I'm doing this to bring the community together, as many YouTubers are, including yourself. I'm not rich. That's why I'm doing story mode, to explain how and why I got my collection. And truth be told, if it went up in flames tomorrow, I wouldn't care, as long as my family are safe. Anyway, I was afraid to speak out because I was just one. But nowadays, there's many. I'm sick of the arrogance of these YouTubers who think they are above everyone else. So what? You have a full set of NES games. So have I. But that doesn't make me more of a fan or a gamer than someone running an emulator. I don't usually rant and rave, but things need to change for the better.
Metal Jesus had to come out on the defense and say, I did not do this. This was not from me. And he had reached out to Joel on Facebook to say, hey, can you please let me take a look at that email so I can prove that it's not me? But Joel did not comply.
I have zero record of this email coming from me. Back in Feb, when I was first alerted to this, I messaged you, Joel, on FB asking for the email header so I could inspect the originating IP address / email servers. You read it and never responded. I have the screenshot. Also, I have just one job since 2016, YouTube. This person who wrote this in 2017 mentions working 2 jobs. I've been very vocal. That hasn't been me since February of 2016. People spoof my accounts all the time looking for review codes and crap like that. I have featured dozens of YouTubers and never asked for money. Dig through all 700 videos and ask them all if you don't believe me.
I think Joel maybe meant well and wanted to revamp his image because a lot of people have this collective perception that this man with thousands of video games must be a millionaire and must have gotten all of his collection from his fans, and he didn't truly deserve it.
Because people took it the wrong way, like I'm a spoiled brat or something at 8 years old.
And I think he was doing his best to repair that damaged reputation by taking a hardline anti-e-begging stance.
I started talking about e-begging even though it was new to me. It's basically people asking for things to keep their channel going that may not be warranted, but unfortunately it's in the eye of the beholder. But at the same time, that's why I got rid of Fanzone. I didn't want people to look at me as some kind of charity.
And even saying that you have an anti-e-begging stance automatically closes a lot of windows. Like, never gonna be on Metal Jesus's channel. Radical Reggie, bye. Can't be there.
My collection's more about the journey of how I got things rather than the journey of how people sent me things.
A lot of the drama around his channel started in 2017 when he reached out to Nintendo back when the Nintendo Switch was brand new, hoping that he could secure a Switch for a potential review. And Nintendo sent back their terms. They're like, this is what you can and cannot say about the Switch. These are the dates whenever you can review it, so on and so forth. Well, Joel said, well, what's the point of that? Those are not my words. This is just a script to read, so what's the point of even making this video? No thanks, I'll find my own Switch. And the Nintendo rep's like, whatever, you're never gonna get one.
The lady on the phone laughed and said, it's impossible for you to have a Switch, let alone Breath of the Wild. It's under heavy duty security and I'm bluffing, and go ahead and put it online because you don't have one.
Joel made a couple of phone calls and he secured 2 Nintendo Switches, of which he hyped up through a trailer on his Facebook saying, hey, we got a big Nintendo Switch review coming out, and he was gonna do things on his own terms. And that's exactly what he did. He put out a Nintendo Switch review where he did offer some positives and some criticisms about the product. And Nintendo didn't quite like that.
And what happened when I uploaded the video? I got not only a lot of hate from Nintendo fans, but I got a copyright strike from Nintendo themselves. In fact, not just on this video, but on every single video I had uploaded on YouTube.
Another thing that happened during the Switch fiasco was that Joel started calling out other YouTubers for being paid shills, and he noticed that in their video reviews of the Switch, they were only reviewing superficial things like the box it came in, and I guess the form factor of the Switch, but nothing of substance.
I saw a lot of unboxing videos on YouTube, and it made me cringe because all I could see was Nintendo's words.
The Switch box? Wow. It's not that big. It's not that big. And it's lovely. I love it.
Take it out. I gotta go, guys.
Look at that thing.
I'll see you later.
That is something to covet.
Sweet, beautiful Switch. Look how cute this little tiny cartridge is.
Because everything's so small.
It is so small.
The games are small.
Don't you,
so light too.
Packaging is as sleek as your console, but the Switch is never going back in there.
Meanwhile, Joel had reviewed the games that came with it, the controllers, and expressed his grief with the Joy-Cons. Joel was right. They're shit. they break all the time, and he knew it. Joel called it. He did nothing wrong.
Yes, Nintendo and I don't have the best relationship. They didn't like me importing Super Famicom games in 1991, nor did they like me importing GameCube games back in 2003. And they didn't like me using soundtracks of their old games in my videos, nor did they like me having Mario on my t-shirt. But Nintendo, I am the supporter. It's just you're the dictator.
The only reason I brought up this whole old drama is because I think it helps better contextualize why Joel is kind of on an island by himself, and by that I don't mean Australia, there's many people there, but why he's just kind of an outcast in his own community.
You're here, everyone's here.
No, not at all. I'm a part of the community, I'd like to think.
No, but meaning you don't get like this all, obviously,
yeah, I just
stuff
prefer to
going
stay
on.
out.
You
I
prefer
don't
to,
like
that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Not in the middle, you just prefer to just do your
things
thing.
can get misconstrued.
100%.
And it's happened too many times to me throughout the years. That's just part of YouTube and the community and the internet.
As time went on, Joel's channel became less about video game reviews and more about DIY projects. I counted at least 5 times where there was some major construction going on to his home. Either he was building a new wing to his house or rearranging his video game collection again. And I think Joel is just that kind of personality. He's very kinetic. He's always got to have a new project to work on, whether it be a car or his video game room or something like that. He just never stops. And that unfortunately led to a lot of accidents and health problems within his life.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another renovation episode. There's no easy way of saying this without making it sound dramatic, but last night I actually had a heart attack. I've got no one else to blame but myself.
One day, Joel released a very tragic video on his channel outlining a lightning storm that had hit his area, causing a massive power surge that wiped out a lot of his arcade machines and other electronic appliances within his home.
It's no consolation when you hear this. Of 87 arcade machines, we've lost over 70 that do not work.
I just want to warn you, Joel is about to say one of the most cringe-inducing sentences here that made me pause the video and say, what the fuck?
No, I'm not insured. I don't have insurance for my games, my house, anything.
Joel has this apprehension towards having any form of insurance. I don't know if it's his mindset of self-reliance or if it links back to his grandfather who warned him that insurance was a waste of money, you should never get it. And then he also had a boss later on that told him that he didn't insure any of his vehicles on the car lot that he owned because it would be way too expensive. Joel just has a personal belief where he does not believe in insurance, and he believes that it would have never helped him in his life. So I have compiled a reel of times in Joel's life where insurance could have helped him. Roll the clip.
You know, I've never had insurance for my whole life. I've never needed it. So it was around mid-April 1992, and my grandfather and I were standing in an empty shop that we're currently paying rent for, wondering what we're going to do. We had no insurance. None, zero, zip. My grandfather didn't believe in insurance. And unfortunately, we had no measures for a security system or bars on the windows or anything like that. So I was driving the car for approximately 2 months without insurance. And he told me, never insure your car. Believe me, save your money. And if you have a bingo one day, it's very rare that lightning will strike twice. The monitor's absolutely blown. The power supply's blown, it's gone right through. I don't even know how this is possible, to be honest. So I listened to his advice, as my grandfather once told me, and vowed not to have insurance. I don't have insurance for my games, my house, anything. Don't have car, anything.
Home,
I know
health.
it might seem unusual. No, health.
No, that's what I mean. No health.
And it took its toll. I had a mild heart attack in all this. I went on a bit of a break because unfortunately I had a heart attack in the process. Now this is all well and good, but I still had to finish off my video games room. And while doing some final touches on the roof, I cut myself that bad I started to pass out. Then while trying to climb down the scaffold, I fell and broke my ribs. I was bleeding a lot from the nose, I was passing out, and then Jess took me to hospital where I went into a seizure and then had a CAT scan and so on. Problem was I had a tumour in the brain. It was around 5 centimetres. They were going to operate, but I sought out alternative healing and I tried all these different places and I ended up moving to Sydney for a couple of weeks and saw this woman who did so many wonderful things to actually shrink the size of the tumour. This was without invasive surgery and it did work. I had to meditate every day or twice a day, had to take all these special things and herbs and all that.
I don't know how they do things down in Australia, but when you treat a brain tumor through meditation and herbs, here in America, we call that an untreated brain tumor. What the fuck, Joel? Please, and I mean this as Miles, I'm not Hikiko, I'm breaking character here. I sincerely mean this. Just go to a hospital. Go to a doctor, a surgeon with a real degree. Have them give you an MRI and get rid of this now massive brain tumor that you presumably have. I'm not kidding. Do this for your family. Okay? If not for yourself, put your ego behind you. It's the tumor talking. Just go. Okay? Get in the car and drive to the hospital because you're gonna die.
Life and death go hand in hand. So what's going to happen to my collection when I die?
All good things must come to an end, and I'm not talking about Joel's life, so settle down. I'm talking about his channel. It seems like The Last Gamer is coming to a close. Joel's released a trailer for the final 2 chapters of Story Mode, and he posted these ominous photos of his empty game rooms. Yes, that's right, his collection is nowhere to be found. Seems like he may have taken that deal, but nothing's been confirmed. Joel hasn't officially said he sold his collection. Regardless, I'm gonna miss this wild ride. After watching 70 chapters of this dude's life, I gotta say, it's amazing. And I think Joel is a legend and he deserves a little recognition here in this gaming YouTube scene. Regardless, I want to thank you all for watching. Go check out Joel's channel. Go check out Story Mode. Here's my recommended picks. Signing off, this has been Hikiko. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with this.
If you feel alone or have thoughts on self-harm or worse, it's best to talk to someone, family, friends, a social worker, or even a professional counsellor. These days there are so many avenues to get help, via telephone or even online. Life is valuable and precious, and no matter how hard things seem at the time, there's always an answer and you're not alone.